CardGamesTV1 Podcast. The future of Dragon Ball Super TCG. Just some thoughts, because I noticed recently somebody pointed out that that I'm like living in the future, multiple steps ahead in the game, than other people. It's like, that is true. That's facts. You're stating facts, right? So it is true. I'm always looking for the next thing, new things, looking at old cards and trying to find some new use for them, trying to find some value in them. And I got my table set up and I got a whole bunch of cards stacked up, separated and stuff like that. I just got my Oceanuses today, so that's awesome. Put that in my Hatchhyack deck. Hopefully this weekend I'll be going to my locals with my teammate and I'll be playing Hatchhyack. So for those who like my Hatchhyack builds, well, I'll be playing Hatchhyack. That also reminds me, I have a Hatchhyack leader group. So I have over 40 members so far. Join if you play Hatchhyack or you just like Hatchhyack, the leader. Go join the group. I post a lot of useful information, spicy text, and my thoughts on different ideas and stuff. I recently had somebody ask me about some Hatchhyack advice because they're going to be playing Hatchhyack themselves, I guess this weekend. So yeah, it's like some store tournament or something like that they were talking about in Puerto Rico, which is pretty cool to be able to talk to somebody in Puerto Rico. And I'm Puerto Rican, so that's ironic. But I'm not in Puerto Rico myself, so it's kind of nice to talk to somebody that plays Hatchhyack that's also Puerto Rican. So of course I had to share my knowledge and wisdom. The new thing is I forgot to mention is the idea of try to use multiple unisons, because of the fact that you can actually utilize. That's one of the new things with Hatchhyack. I might have to post that on the page, make a video about it. Hatchhyack. I'll probably just share this podcast in the group. So let me talk about it. Let me talk about Hatchhyack then. The idea of using unisons, obviously most black unisons, they don't have specified costs. So you can just pay any energy to use them. So one energy would be enough. And so you can play a unison for one energy, swing with it, right? Then play another one for one energy, replacing the first one and swing with it. And there is the Migra, right? No, Mekagobora unison. Think if I'm right. No, that doesn't have specified cost, but it does have Empower, so it can gain the markers from the previous unisons. Obviously, you want to have unisons that have at least +1 abilities. So, sorry. So that way you could take advantage of Empower. Hopefully, they make more black Empower cards, so that way it does help with the whole unison concept. Because Hatchhyack definitely can benefit. I mean, I've been new to this from unisons because they're not battle cards, so that's why you're able to splash blue unisons, green unisons, yellow unisons, including extra cards, right, into the Hatchhyack builds. So that's why I have different Hatchhyack builds with different colors. Green Hatchhyack is a really good color. Yellow is decent. It's definitely defensive. But blue is my go-to Hatchhyack color outside of mono black. So right now I have somewhat of a black red Hatchhyack build because I'm using Gogeta. So I have the Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta deck, and I have E Supreme Kai in there, for the double strike ability, but also for the red energy that I'll need to trigger my 10-drop Gogeta effect of burning my opponent for game. So that's a thing. But playing multiple unisons in a single turn will get you obviously multiple attacks, and you can take advantage of that. Especially, it's not that hard to stall with the deck, obviously, so you'll have a lot of energy. So being able to play multiple unisons in a single turn, and still be able to keep energy up for like negates and stuff, obviously is a good strategy. Hopefully, I have to double check, but I don't think so. But hopefully they make like a dual attack unison. That'd be nice. A black dual attack unison. Obviously, I recommend it to be specified black to play it, so that way it can't just be splashing any deck. But definitely would be nice if it has empowered, make it extra nice, because then I can, take advantage of the whole empowering thing. So definitely expect more in the near future. So that's a future site of mine. Expecting more blocker unisons. Oh my god, Bandai, give me some blocker unisons. Some black blocker unisons. Stop being an asshole. That's one of the main things that Hatchhyack is definitely missing, is a unison blocker. Surprise! Oh, that's another thing. A black Hatchhyack unison. We've had the leader for years, but we haven't got a unison for it. Most other decks have unisons, right? And then another thing is, what's it called? Baby, since there's baby Hatchhyack, right? The blue card, the blue ultimate. It's funny there's blue and not black. Right? It definitely would have been a great card in the Hatchhyack deck, right? Because it's a Hatchhyack card, baby Hatchhyack. Why wasn't it black, right? We had to discard, 2 black cards, I guess, in order to play it, right, for free and stuff like that. That'd be very useful in Hatchhyack. But anyway, it's just something I was thinking about. But I was thinking also is like, okay, we have actual black Hatchhyack cards, but we don't have no black baby cards. And then we don't have a baby Hatchhyack in black. So we have Hatchhyacks in the game. They're black, but most of the baby cards are in blue, right? Now, I'm okay with it being blue-black if you're going to do a blue-black thing, because, you get the blue from baby and the black from the hatch, and you have, that kind of scenario. That's why it's surprising that, the baby Hatchhyack isn't a blue-black card. Granted, this was before, if I'm right, he came out before multicolors, or maybe right after multicolors, but the idea of multicolor ultimates probably wasn't on Bandai's thought process. But it's just something that I'm noticing. It's like, I do like the baby Hatchhyack character, so I'm like, baby cards, please. Black preferably, so I can play him in Hatchhyack. And it'd be nice if we have a black baby Hatchhyack, like Union Absorb. I guess that would be the mechanic for it. So it'd be nice to have a Union Absorb, where I can take a baby and do that. Oh, it would be kind of cool. Oh well, it'd be kind of cool as an option. A part of the effect of Union Absorb is that I can actually absorb a baby card from my opponent's field. That'd be extra cool to add that. So if I ever play against a baby deck, my opponent's dropping those baby snatchers, right, and all those other counterattack or counterplay battle cards with the baby, with baby on it. The fact that I can absorb it and be able to evolve up into a baby Hatchhyack, that'd be kind of cool. So that'd be nice. Obviously, you want it to be an 8-drop. You want it to have dual attack, but maybe have the ability to gain triple strike, so that way it could be a win con. We'll see. But just some stuff that I was thinking about when it comes to Hatchhyack. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, man, been noticing people been talking about Hatchhyack. Not too surprising. What's also extra funny is that I tend to be, ahead of the game, and I tend to influence the game. So that's the thing. But there's some people obviously don't believe that I have influence in the game. And it's understandable because, see, my influence is not 100% direct. sometimes some people, notice that I'm a direct risk, or at least they'll give me credit just because they're like, okay, he's the guy that, plays a lot of unisons, right? Or he's the guy who doesn't play super combos all the time. So, if Bandai does stuff like that, right, brings that type of concept into the game, or somebody goes to a tournament and they top utilizing that concept. Let's say they top with a deck without super combos, they'll mention me, right? They'll point out that, hey, Heriberto was one who was doing that before. And it's like, yeah. And then, if people top with decks with multiple unisons, and I've been seeing a lot of people playing decks with multiple unisons, and it's not the Drip Cool or the Cooler deck. I saw a Green Frieza deck with like 14 unisons in it. So I made the joke like, oh shit, 14 unisons, that's a lot, winky face. And then the funny thing is the person's response was funny because it was somewhat of my typical type of response, the way I would technically have responded with, me just trying to justify and explain like, oh, there's so many discard outlets, so if you don't need the unisons, you can always discard them, and draw or something, or just, it's not a problem having, a whole bunch of unisons. And it's just so funny to be in that situation, to be on the opposite end of the conversation, where I'm saying to somebody that they're playing too much unisons, and then they're responding with, a justification for playing a whole bunch of unisons, which is funny to be on the opposite end of the conversation, because normally I'm the one being told the 12 or 20 or 60 unisons is too much, and then me trying to explain to them how it's not. Like there's a reason for it. Like there's a reason that I'm playing this many unisons. So that's kind of funny. There's pros and cons to stuff. Some people will use the whole unisons don't have combo power, so it's a bad idea to have a whole bunch of them. It's like, yeah, that is true. They don't have combo power, but you're assuming that I want to combo. You're assuming that I need combo power. That's the problem. You're assuming that my playstyle is I'm discarding a whole bunch of cards from my hands whenever my opponent attacks, or whenever I attack. I want to boost my battle cards or leader. I use combo. It's like, no, I don't. I use strong battle cards, so I don't have to combo whenever I swing with it, with my battle cards or unisons or leader. And then when I do combo, it's going to be defensive, and usually it's just going to be like a single 5k, right? Or I just take the damage. But on average, I will either be blocking the attack, negating the attack, especially floodgate negates. That's the main thing I'll do. I got my Oceanuses today, so I'm going to definitely be dropping Oceanuses on my opponent. Negating the attack, have a blocker in case I have to stop another attack. Plus my opponent will mill 4 cards if they do attack. So I can take advantage of that. So that's the funny thing is like I try not to let my opponent get to the point where they could deal me damage, or where I would have to combo out. Then there's the endless combo concept, where I use stuff that, well, mainly right now the main thing is the 5-star, not 5-star, what am I saying? Well, there's the 4-star ball, and I use the Goku Adventure Begins, so I can reuse the 4-star ball, so I can use that as combo power, right? And the cool thing about it is, because it's not actually a battle card, and I'm not actually comboing, I'm playing an active battle skill that helps me bypass any combo killer effects, like a battle card or a unison that might have an effect that normally will send a card in the combo area to the drop. This bypasses that because it's an extra card and it's an active battle skill. So there's that. Plus, it comes in handy in a scenario where if my opponent is using a battle card that says I can't combo, well, this is not comboing. This is an active battle skill, so I can use it. Just like I could use Senzu Bean, right? And then if I'm in a scenario where my opponent has something that says if I play a counter attack or counter skill card, I'll take damage, or I'll have to warp 2 cards from my hands or some shit like that, right? That's the type of scenario. If I end up in a scenario like that, at least I can use the 4-star ball essentially to out combo and use that as a form of defense, or just take the hit. But at least I have a way to bypass some of problematic effects. Because the funny thing is, I was playing my Death and Taxes deck, not Hatchhyack, well, not yet, but yeah, that'd be cool to have a Death and Taxes Hatchhyack deck. That'd be nice. Wishful thinking, but anyway, my Yamcha Death and Taxes deck, and I had the Unison and battle cards in play that would deal my opponent 1 damage if they play a counterattack, and my opponent, or counter skill card, so even a counter play. My opponent had a counter play, he wanted to use it, but he used it wrong because he couldn't play because he didn't have a blue Unison to play it, so he had to take it back. So that was 1 less damage he had to take. But after that, I'm like attacking, expecting him to try to negate, which obviously would kill him. So more like he's not gonna negate, so that's good for me. But then he had like Senzu Bean. I'm like, an active battle card. Lucky you. Man, I wish that was a negate. It's normally I don't want my opponent to have a negate, but this was one of those cases where I'm like, I wish you had a negate, and I wish you were foolish enough to play so I can just burn you for 3 and end the game right there and then. So that was kind of funny. Yeah. And my leader was awakened, so they would have actually taken 4 damage. So any counter, and that's the funny thing, he did have the counter play later on. He wanted to use it, but I think when he used it, he cleared my board before he actually used it. So lucky him. But he had to put in so much effort, because if I'm right, what happened was he played Tragedy Overground, so he was able to go up the Zamasu chain and bring out the 9-drop Zamasu, and then use it to bring out Tragedy Overground, and that's how he was able to clear my board of my burn cards. I still have my Unison. My Unison can still burn him for 1, and the leader will burn him for 2. Burn him for 1 more damage, so that'll be 2 damage. But my opponent was at 4 life at this time. The idea was I needed him to play a counter attack or play so he could lose. So if he tried to play like a guy sitting trunks, he would have took 4 damage, or if he played a negate, 4 damage. And of course, I'm swinging with 20 Ks every turn, so there's that. But the irony is, he had a whole bunch of super combos, so that was saving his ass from every attack. So that was ironic. He had a pretty big hand size, so he was able to out combo a whole bunch of attacks. But it's the fact that he had to combo to stay alive, because if he played a negate, he would have died. If he drops a baby Hatchhyack, he would have died, that kind of stuff. So anyway, so back to Hatch and the future of card games. Well, let's get to the future of card games, because I already talked a bit about Hatch, about using unisons, about using blockers to warp and stuff like that. I have tons of ideas for Hatch. I'm experimenting with some cards, some Toa cards. So there's that. Definitely trying to incorporate more burn into Hatchhyack. But anyway, the state of the game in general, like what I'm doing right now is the no hand concept, where I'm trying to make it where my opponent doesn't have a hand. I was using Tornado Ties. Now I'm doing Chain Zeno, and I was just working on my Cell deck, and Cell Chain. I call it Cell Chain. That's what people call it, Cell Chain. But it's like, the Cell Chain, where the goal and the idea obviously is to reduce your opponent's hand size down to, with Cell it'll be down to 3 cards in your opponent's hand, and hopefully you could rip them out with card effects. And then you got Chain Zeno, reduce your opponent's hand size down to 5 essentially, because they'll take their whole hand, their battle cards, shuffle it back into the deck, and then draw 5, so they'll have a 5-card hand. So the idea is to try to reduce that hand size as much as possible, through card effects obviously. What else? And of course, and just 17 turns of tides will just clearly take all the cards in your opponent's hand and put it and shuffle it back into the deck, so they won't have a hand size. So it's the no hand strategy. Or handless strategy. So that's because one of the things people tend to do when it comes to somebody having a hand size is they're always trying to have a bigger hand size, so that way when they go for they try to go for game, they could hopefully prevent their opponent from out comboing just by making sure they have a bigger hand size. That's why most people play super combos, because they're trying to do that. And that's their main way of winning, is trying to out resource their opponent, try to out card advantage their opponent, so that way when they attack, the attack goes through and it's double strike. They'll dump their whole hand into that attack and go for game. And that's their strategy. And if it works and you can set that up, that's fine. But that's not always guaranteed. You know what I mean? That's not always guaranteed. You're not guaranteed to have a huge hand size. So, So, since you're not guaranteed to have a huge hand size, that whole idea of, doing that, having more cards in your hand than your opponent to go for game, it's not always likely. Especially if you go up against like hand control, or if somebody sells Zenos you, chains Zenos you, then you're not going to have a huge hand size, right? Or if they sell you, because sell is is the ultimate deck, the sell ultimate deck. That's the new, right? So that's going to be out there. So at any point you can end up with 3 cards in your hands. So you want some type of strategy that is like 1 or 2 card combo. I said 1 or 2, 2 or 3 card combo, right? That can help you put yourself in a advantageous position and put your opponent at disadvantage, right? So that's why making their hand size small, while increasing your own hand size through unison draw effects, through leader draw effects, through battle card draw effects, for example. That way you can just make sure that you have a much bigger hand size than your opponent by drastically reducing their hand size. Obviously, with the sell thing, I plan to use Android 18 super combo in order to reduce my opponent's hand size. My opponent's hand size in the process of me comboing up to make sure that my attack is strong enough to hit. So that's the thing you want to do with the sell deck. You want to drop sell, reduce your opponent's hand size to 3, swing, and then combo at least 2 Android 18 super combos to get yourself to 50k double strike, and then knock off 2 cards from your opponent's hand. So even if the card in their hand, the 1 card left in their hand is a super combo, let's say it draws a card, it won't be enough to stop a 50k double strike. So that's a thing, right? And then of course you still got the leader swing. If you have a unison, you have a unison swing. If you have the ability to overwhelm, you have another swing. So that's the thing. I incorporate overwhelm into the strategy so that I can have extra attacks. I should have a leader, unison, sell when I drop for 5 with the extra card effect, extra card that came out in this ultimate deck, and then drop, overwhelm, which probably be Man on a Mission, Goku Man on a Mission. So I can have that 20k double strike crit. And the funny thing is, I could go with that. I could swing with that super combo Android 16 to drop cards from my opponent's hand and get that double strike crit to go through, especially if my opponent still has 4 life, and then swing in with 30k double strikes to my opponent's leader with sell and finish the game off that way. If my opponent has 5 life or 6 life, obviously I still have the leader and unison swing that I could take advantage of. So it's just something to take into account. Ideally, since the first 4 damage is the easiest, you have to focus on trying to do 4 damage in one turn, which is why I try to play something that has double strike and then overwhelm something with double strike, so that way it can go through. And that's why Man on Mission is a really good overwhelm card right now, because of the fact you play it, swing with it, get the crit damage in there, and make sure your opponent loses 2 life and doesn't benefit from it, and then drop your finishing attack, which will be a double strike, and just get that attack up there, 60k, that type of stuff, just to make it hard for your opponent to out combo. So that's the idea. We're doing the whole first 4 damage is the easiest, the next 4 just requires a combo. So I guess that'll be the new thing I'll start saying now, because normally I say the first 4 damage is the easiest, next 2 requires a little effort, and the last 2 is the hardest. And it's true, but if you have a combo, if you have a strategy, the last 4 damage is not difficult. I mean, technically, you can do 6 damage in one turn with the right combo. You could do 8, but 6 is reasonable. But like I said, the first 4 damage is the easiest, and you rather be in a scenario where your opponent has 4 or less life when you combo off to finish them off. So that is the future of gameplay for me. That's what I'm working towards. Like I said, the first 4 damage is the easiest, so I don't have to do much. I don't have to do much in order to do 4 damage to opponent. But strategy-wise, combo-wise, I do gotta have a way to deal 4 damage in one turn. So, and of course, it'll mainly be attack based. When it comes to burn, obviously getting your opponent down to 2 or 1 life is the old school strategy. So for burn, that was always the strategy, right? The first 4 damage is the easiest, next 2 requires a little effort, the last 2 is the hardest, unless you're using burn, right? But now, because we're doing the whole handless or no hand strategy, then being able to reduce our opponent's hand size, so that way it's less than 6 cards, and make sure our hand is nice and thick, and then go in for 4 damage in one turn is the optimal goal. Or at least that is the game plan right now. So I wouldn't be surprised more players are going to be doing that. They're going to do their best to try to get their opponent down to 4 life, and then just stall for like 1 or 2 turns just so they can get to their kill turn and then do 4 damage per game. Defending yourself, that's another thing. Stopping the first attack, like leader swing on turn 1, out comboing the attack, will probably be a common thing a lot of players are going to do, because that gives you the possibility of getting to turn 5. If you combo out your opponent's leader swing on turn 1, right, your chances of getting to turn 5 is higher. Unless your opponent has some really herpy-derpy turn 2 kill strategy, right? You should be able to make it to turn 5 if you combo turn 1. So if you out combo turn 1, so if you defend yourself turn 1, right, you negate, you combo, you block. If you do whatever you do to not take damage turn 1, that greatly increases your chances of getting to turn 5. Because then what happens is, turn 2, you'll take a hit, you'll stop a hit, right, kind of type of scenario, and then that's just 1 hit you took, so you still have 7 life, right? And then turn 3, you might take a hit or not, because once you have 3 or more energy, it's easier to defend, which is why turn 1, turn 2 is the best time to do the most amount of damage, which is why I try to take advantage of that. Try to deal a lot of damage in the first 2 turns, at least 4 damage in the first 2 turns. That way, when you get to turn 3, you can start putting, you can play multiple negates. Obviously, you can play floodgate negates like Oceanus and still have 1 energy for a Dimension Magic or something of that nature, or Violent Rays or something, or Dormant Potential Unleash. So ideally, you want to get to turn 3 and then and keep that energy up for defense. Because turn 2, you should have a unison. So you should have a leader in unison, and that should actually be all you need in order to do damage, at least 4 damage. leader unison, and you're swinging with that every turn and turn. So turn 3, turn 4, you want to stay defensive, especially if you have a turn 5 win con. But if you have a turn 4 win con, well, you're going to get there, because when you had 3 energy, you floodgated with like a Topo Oceanus or something similar to that, and then you had a negate. And especially if you have those blocker negates, you can afford to take damage, obviously. You can afford to take a life and negate a couple attacks if your opponent's trying to go aggro. If you're playing Hatchhyack, obviously you're drastically reducing how many times they can attack you, but that's the thing. But definitely want to keep your defenses up. So like I said, turn 1, you want to stop from taking damage. Typically, you just need to out-combo your opponent's leader swing. Then turn 2, you could take 1 or 2 damage, but ideally, taking no damage is the perfect scenario, obviously. Unless you're trying to awaken, then take some damage. You just don't want to take too much damage too fast, is what I'm trying to say. Because on turn 3, even if you play a floodgate like Topo or Violent Rays, Violent Rays or Oceanus or something like that, your opponent can still attack. It's just now they're being taxed, right? There's a cost to attack for them, but they can still attack. So you want to take that to account. So protecting your life in the first 2 turns, well, at least turn 1, and taking very little damage turn 2. That way, when you do your turn 3, floodgate negate like I typically do. Then, if your opponent does try to go through your floodgate effect, at least you have life as a cushion. And if they get you down to 4, and let's say you can awaken at 4, well, good for you, because now you're able to awaken. If and you can try to use that as part of your combo. Your win con is to awaken. So turning your awaken into a win con, obviously is a futuristic concept right there, right? Untapping 2 energy can definitely help you play another card that helps you set up a combo, because you play something for 4 energy on turn 4, right? Then awaken and untap 2 energy and use that 2 energy to play something else, or a couple other cards, like a couple 1-drop energies, one energy cards, and just do some herp-derp strategy. You can do Mirror and Creator Absorb combo for 2 energy. But 1 to pay for the overwhelm cost of the Mirror, Creator Absorb, and 1 to play the Champa in order to get the 10k double strike. And use that as your win con. So that's something to keep in mind. So you want to conserve and save your untapped 2 energy awaken. So you want to save your awakening for when you want to combo off. So the idea is to hold off to turn 4 or 5 to awaken, and then go off, right? Let's see. You definitely want to have some generic cards, especially if you side deck. I don't side deck, but if you do side deck, there are some really good generic black cards you can use. They're like 3 costs that have decent effects you could take advantage of. For example, there is a 3-drop Demon God Putine Mind Controlled or something like that. Anyway, she's a 3-drop blocker, 5k power, and she has the ability to take control of one of your opponent's 4 costs or less battle cards and switch it to active mode. So the fact that you can steal one of your opponent's attackers, especially if it's the 4 costs or less dual attacker, or if, let's say, it's a blocker, the fact that you can steal your opponent's blocker is nice. This is definitely a good tech card against like Bulma or something. Like if you're playing against a Bulma deck, this would be a good side deck card, because you're guaranteed that you're gonna I keep forgetting. Bulma turns the cards into battle cards, so if you take them, they won't be blockers. But this is, anyway, this is a good card in general. Just being able to steal a 4-drop or less, because sometimes somebody will have a decent 4-drop or 3-drop in play, and to be able to steal it and use it against them is nice. So you have kind of like a sword and shield, because whatever you steal, you're going to swing with, and you'll keep her up as a blocker to defend yourself with. So it's pretty nice 3-drop. There's a 4-drop Toa that's a blocker. It has the ability to warp one of your opponent's battle cards. So that's really good for getting rid of any big problematic battle card and be able to put up a defense at the same time. So, that's the kind of stuff I'm definitely looking for. But I want cards that allows me to warp something when I play, or warp more than one card when I play, obviously, and then have the blocker skill. Of course, I can block. Have power so I can attack with it, preferably 15 or 20. 20 would be better, and then have the ability to restand at the end of turn. So that's the kind of stuff I'm definitely looking for. But it'd be nice to have a blocker that's dual attack. It's a 3-drop, for example, 15k power that restands at the end of the turn, so I can attack with it twice on one turn, and then restand at the end of the turn so I can use that to block. Would be nice. And if it had barrier, it'd be extra nice. But that's wishful thinking, obviously. But you get the idea. Definitely looking forward to that stuff. The possibility that might happen. Right now, there is a 3-drop 15k dual attack. It's a Toa. I think it's Demon God Toa. And she's a 3-drop. She has an ability that could potentially let you steal your opponent's unison that has 4 more markers, or your opponent rips up to 2 cards from the hand or drop hand or battle area. So your opponent could choose to warp nothing, and that'll let you steal their unison. But if they do warp 1 card, you still get to take their unison. But if they warp 2 cards, you don't get to take their unison. But at least you got rid of 2 cards. If those 2 cards were their hands, that's nice because that reduces their hand size, right? And then you can swing with your 15k 3-drop twice while you're under the protection of Hatchhyack leader effect. So another thing about this card is this is a good tech card in general, because if you're going up against a deck that likes to use a unison, this would be a way you could try to steal it. Like, for example, the GT deck likes to put out the unison. So this would be a decent card to use against it. So you play for 3, and if your opponent doesn't want to warp any of their cards, battle area and battle card, or any cards in their hand, then you'll end up stealing their GT unison, which you'll have no use for, but at least you can guarantee they don't have any use for it. And what would be extra funny is if they only have 1 copy of the unison in their GT deck and you steal it. Oh man, that will hurt. That will hurt them a lot, because their whole strategy is based off of that unison. So it has potential. Definitely has potential. Another good card to have. Right. If I'm right, yeah, because it can steal unison. It's Supreme Cat of Time Brainwash. She can steal unison or a battle card if I'm right. So she'd be a good option. I actually have that card, but I'm probably not going to use that card. I'll probably just have it for collection. But I do have Pan Time Patrol Maiden. So she's the go-to card for me when it comes to a ultimate. But I do have other black ultimates that are generic enough that I can use them as the ultimate for any deck that I build where I want to have an ultimate in it. So many things to do. I'll probably make another part. I'll probably make a part 2 of this because I got to go to work. So I'll just stop here and now. Yeah, man, just always thinking about the future. Always focus on what you possibly can do. Read cards, man. Don't just focus on the popular cards or the shiny cards. Read the commons. Read the uncommon cards. Look at obscure card effects, right? And you'll be surprised. You'll find some nice hidden gems. I had some cards that I was considering get rid of, or I was like, I'll probably never use these cards. But then now I'm like looking at them like, I actually have a use for them now. I could use this card in this strategy, this card in that strategy. That's the point. When you start creating, different strategies, different concepts, that opens up the possibility for certain cards. Certain cards, start shining. Certain cards start becoming useful. Like for me, ironically, Goku Man on a Mission was meh. Like, okay, 20k double strike crit, that's nice and all, but I don't care. Because to me, it's like, I would normally play a whole bunch of battle cards, right? Try to do a lot of damage in one turn and then overwhelm and try to finish my opponent off with something that's double strike, right? But why have something that's double strike crit, that's 20k, that's overwhelm 6, when I can play a 20k double strike that doesn't have crit, that's overwhelm 4, right? Like my Bardic, Waking Warrior Bardic. Why not play that card instead, which has a lower cost for overwhelm than the one with crit, if I'm going to use it as a finisher, right? If I'm going to use it as my final surprise attack. But with, Turning the Tides, it was a great card because I play it first, then I drop Turning the Tides, so that way I have two attackers, right? 2 battle cards I can swing with, and then he swings with crit, and then, right? So I swing with him first, hit 2 damage, then hit with Enter 17, that's another damage, right? So that's 3 damage, and my opponent doesn't add it to the hand, then swing with my leader, and that's 4 damage. So like I said, first 4 damage is the easiest, so it's not that hard to get my opponent down to 4, so I just gotta combo off and deal him 4 damage in one turn. So Man on a Mission definitely helps with that. You just gotta be in a position where your opponent can't stop your attacks, and then, bang, easy peasy. This is why the crit effect is important, because it will reduce the ability for your opponent to survive, right? To prevent them from getting cards in the hands to defend. And that's the thing. Right now you gotta focus on your opponent's hand, because we already have tons of ways to deal with our opponent's board, right? Board wipes and stuff like that. We already have ways to. So clearing somebody's board, you can always prevent blockers. The fact that you can easily, especially if you have like counter, right? You can stop negates, or if you play stuff that says your opponent can't negate, right? Or if they do play a counterattack, they will lose. You already can bypass that. The only thing that's hard to bypass is combo power, because if your opponent has a huge hand size, that's always going to get in your way. So that's why reducing the hand size is important. So that's the future of gameplay, is not necessarily increasing your hand size, but reducing your opponent's hand size. And then, if you can increase yours in the process, that's extra nice, obviously. But just reducing the hand size in general will give you the advantage, even if you don't win. Let's say you don't win that turn. By them having such a low hand size, the likelihood of them clapping back will be drastically reduced. So it'll be less than likely they'll kill you on the clapback. So you're in a win-win scenario in that situation. You either win or you still win, right? Because you might get another turn because your opponent might not be able to do anything. And I've definitely experienced this myself when I played and done stuff like that, where I drastically reduced my opponent's hand size, that, they couldn't really do much in return. They tried, but they barely could do anything because their hand size was so small. And that's good for me. So that always gave me an extra turn, which, can lead to a victory, obviously, right? Extra turns means extra chances of winning. And that's the end of the podcast.